In a world that's constantly speeding up, where ads flash across screens, urging us to buy more, own more, and achieve more, it's easy to feel like we're always chasing something just out of reach. For many of us, especially those of us in the 55 to 75 age range, this relentless pace feels overwhelming. We've seen decades of change, from dial-up internet to smartphones in our pockets. And along the way, we've been told that happiness comes from having the latest, the biggest, the best. But what if that's not the truth? What if the real answer, the one we've been searching for all along, is actually in the moments of stillness and simplicity? As we get older, our perspective shifts. We begin to see through the noise and question the things we thought were important. The shiny new gadgets, the constant need for more, those things no longer hold the same weight. Instead, we start to appreciate the beauty of quiet mornings, a walk in the park, the warmth of a cup of tea shared with a friend. The truth is, happiness doesn't always come from what we own or what we achieve, it often comes from what we let go of. Today, we're going to explore what it means to embrace a slower, more intentional pace of life. As we age, we gain a deeper understanding of what really matters. The connections we make, the experiences we cherish, and the simple moments that fill us with peace. In a world that pressures us to consume more, could slowing down be the key to a more peaceful, fulfilling life? Can we find joy not in the next purchase, but in the next quiet moment? Stay with me, because the answers just might surprise you. Growing up, we were taught that happiness was tied to what we owned. Everywhere we turned, advertisements and societal expectations whispered in our ears, buy more, do more, be more. We were promised that if we had the latest gadgets, the trendiest clothes, or the most extravagant experiences, we would finally feel complete. We believed that these things, these markers of success, would fill the emptiness we sometimes felt inside. The bigger house, the fancier car, the most fashionable accessories, they were supposed to make us happy. Right? But as we age, a quiet shift begins to happen. What once seemed like the answer to life's deepest questions, material possessions, in the pursuit of the next thing, begins to lose its appeal. I remember the moment I decided to downsize my life. It wasn't something I had planned for, but it became necessary. I looked around my large house, and there it was, a sea of things, some beautiful, some useful, many of them forgotten, gathering dust in corners, old kitchen appliances, and used electronics, clothes I hadn't worn in years. And yes, 5 coffee makers, 5. I laughed at the absurdity of it all. Why did I need so much? Letting go of those things wasn't easy. It felt like shedding a part of myself. There was guilt in getting rid of perfectly good items. A sense of loss as I parted with objects I had once cherished. But the more I let go, the more I started to feel something unexpected, freedom. At first, the process of downsizing was emotionally taxing. Each item I let go of felt like an anchor being lifted, but also like a small part of my identity was slipping away. But as the days went on, something surprising began to happen. I felt lighter. Not just physically but emotionally. It was as though I wasn't just letting go of possessions, but also the weight of unnecessary worry, the worry about keeping up with trends, maintaining the things I owned, and being defined by what I had. I realized that the freedom I was searching for didn't lie in the things I owned, but in the things I could let go of. This wasn't about deprivation, it was about intention. It was about living more simply, with less distraction, and more space to breathe. The more I let go, the more I realized how much unnecessary clutter, both physical and mental, had accumulated in my life. And with each item I parted with, I also created more room for peace and joy. I discovered that happiness isn't a matter of adding more to our lives, but of shedding what no longer serves us, whether it's possessions, commitments, or even expectations. It's easy to fall into the trap of thinking that more is always better. Our culture celebrates accumulation and consumption, constantly feeding us the idea that we need the latest, the biggest, the best. But as we grow older, we begin to see the hollowness in that chase. What we thought would bring us joy often only leaves us wanting more. True fulfillment doesn't come from what we acquire, it comes from what we decide to release. Letting go is central to the idea of slow living. But it's important to understand that it doesn't mean depriving ourselves of the things that truly matter. Instead, it's about being intentional with what we choose to keep. It's not about eliminating everything from our lives, but about selecting what truly nourishes us, whether that's physical possessions, relationships, or habits. The power of letting go lies in its ability to help us focus on what brings real value and joy, rather than being distracted by the noise of excess. You might not be ready for a major life change, like downsizing your home. But there's a simpler exercise I'd suggest to help you begin. Take a moment to go through your kitchen, your closets, or even your garage, and start with the things you no longer use or need. It's easy to overlook the accumulation of items that have no real purpose anymore: old clothes, outdated gadgets, or gifts we never really appreciated. We hold on to them because, at some point, they served us in some way. But now, they're just taking up space, both physically and mentally. Letting go doesn't always feel easy, but it's a transformative process. The act of decluttering your home can feel like a weight being lifted from your shoulders. As you start to let go of items that no longer serve you, you'll notice how much lighter you feel, not just in your space, but in your mind. The more we hold on to, the more our minds become cluttered. We think we need more things to feel complete. But often, what we need most is space to breathe, to think, to live. When we simplify our surroundings, we also create space within ourselves. It's as though our physical environment becomes a mirror of our inner world. The more we let go of the unnecessary, the more we open ourselves up to the things that truly matter. Whether it's more time for meaningful conversations, room to pursue a hobby we've neglected, or just the ability to enjoy quiet moments of solitude, letting go makes room for these treasures. Think of it as creating a life that reflects your values rather than your possessions. The more we fill our lives with things, the less we're able to appreciate the things that matter most: peace, connection, and moments of pure joy. Letting go of what no longer serves us allows us to focus on what nourishes us, making room for those things that fill our hearts rather than just our homes. As you go through your space, notice how each item you let go of feels like a small but powerful release, a step closer to a life that's more intentional and less weighed down by the unnecessary. It's not about living with nothing, it's about living with what matters. The more we clear out the clutter, the more we create the space to be present, to appreciate the simple, everyday moments that often go unnoticed. Letting go is a way of inviting peace back into our lives, one small, deliberate action at a time. Our society often equates success with consumption. The more we buy, the more we are told we need. We are bombarded daily with messages urging us to acquire, to have more, to do more, to be more. The latest tech gadget, the most stylish wardrobe, the most exclusive vacation, these are presented as markers of success. We are conditioned to chase the next thing, the next trend, the next must-have item. We believe that if we just get the next thing, the next bigger or better thing, we'll finally feel complete. But when we're younger, we don't always see the long-term consequences of this endless cycle. The thrill of acquiring new things is intoxicating. And it's easy to believe that the next purchase will solve whatever emptiness we may feel. It's a cycle we get caught in without really understanding why. We fill our lives with possessions, believing they will fill the gaps inside of us. But as we grow older, something shifts. We begin to question that narrative. The shiny new toy doesn't excite us the way it once did. The next iPhone or the newest car model isn't as fulfilling as it seemed. We realize that the rush of getting something new fades quickly, leaving us with the same emptiness we started with. I remember the excitement I felt when I bought the latest tech gadget. The anticipation was thrilling. The unboxing. The first time I held it in my hands, it felt like I was receiving a little piece of happiness. But soon enough, the newness wore off. The sparkle faded, and the excitement dwindled. I found myself wondering, is this all there is? Is this really the path to lasting happiness? The initial thrill gave way to a quiet emptiness. The device, once so important, became just another thing I owned. Another object that no longer had the power to fill the space within me. And that's when the realization began to sink in. True fulfillment doesn't come from what we buy. It comes from the deeper, quieter moments in life. The joy of spending time with loved ones. The peaceful stillness of being in nature. The satisfaction of engaging in something we're passionate about. These are the moments that nourish our souls. The rush of a new purchase may feel good in the moment, but it's fleeting. The real richness in life comes from our connections with others, from the experiences we share, and from the quiet reflection we have when we stop to breathe and appreciate the present. Whether it's a walk in the park or a quiet evening with a friend, these moments, simple as they may seem, are the ones that truly fill us up. They are what stay with us long after the thrill of the latest purchase has faded. The more we chase after external things, the more we lose sight of what's truly valuable. The present moment, the people around us, and the simple joys that don't cost a thing. As we step back and reflect on this, we start to see that the endless cycle of consumption isn't the path to fulfillment. The more we acquire, the more we realize we don't need to acquire at all. We begin to understand that contentment comes from within, from the experiences we create, not the things we accumulate. Even when we decide to simplify our lives, the temptation to consume still lingers. It's like an old habit, one that has been ingrained in us over years of constant messaging telling us we need more. The urge to keep up with trends, to acquire the newest gadget, the latest fashion, or the next shiny thing can be overwhelming. It's easy to think that happiness lies just beyond the next purchase. But as we've already seen, the joy of acquiring fades quickly, leaving us yearning for more. So, what do we do when this temptation arises? The key is in shifting our mindset. Instead of focusing on what we need more of, we begin to realize that we already have enough. We stop looking outward for fulfillment and start turning inward, appreciating what we have in the present moment. It's about finding contentment with less. Learning that true abundance doesn't come from what we acquire, but from how we experience life. Start small, give yourself a day. Just one day a week, where you don't buy anything. No online shopping. No trips to the store. No quick grabs at the checkout counter. Just one day to step away from the cycle of consumption. At first, it might feel strange, even a bit uncomfortable. We're so used to the constant flow of advertisements and the ease of purchasing with a click of a button. But as the day goes on, you might begin to notice something subtle. The sense of urgency to buy starts to fade. You realize you don't need anything new to feel good. In fact, you might even feel lighter, freer, knowing that you're not chasing after something just to fill a momentary void. Once that day feels manageable, stretch it to a week. No buying for an entire week. It might sound difficult at first, but you'll soon see how little you actually need. It's amazing how much we accumulate without even thinking about it, unnecessary items that don't add value to our lives. And when we stop acquiring, we make space for the things that truly matter. Time with loved ones, quiet reflection, nature, and the simple joys that have always been there. Over time, you'll notice something remarkable: the pressure to consume, the need to keep up with trends, and the constant bombardment of advertisements will begin to lessen. The constant noise will quiet. Instead, you'll find a deep sense of peace and contentment, because you've stopped chasing. The more you resist the pull to buy, the more you begin to see that what you need is already here. In this moment, you realize that the pursuit of possessions no longer holds the same power over you. You have everything you need within reach. And the best part? You'll start to feel more connected to your life as it is. Instead of focusing on what's missing, you'll find yourself appreciating what's already present: the beauty in simplicity, the joy in being, and the satisfaction in living fully with what you already have. This shift in mindset isn't just about resisting consumerism, it's about returning to a place of clarity, of understanding that true wealth comes from the richness of life itself, not from the things we collect along the way. Living simply doesn't just reduce material clutter, it reduces mental clutter as well. When our lives are filled with things, we often end up spending a great deal of energy managing them, maintaining them, and keeping up with the constant influx of new stuff. But when we begin to live more simply, something amazing happens. We free ourselves from the weight of unnecessary distractions. With fewer things to manage, we have more time and energy to focus on what truly matters, the things that nourish our souls and enrich our lives. In a world that is constantly demanding our attention, whether it's from work, family obligations, or the endless pressure to consume, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. We often get caught up in the rush of doing more, achieving more, and acquiring more. But in the process, we lose touch with what truly brings us joy. By embracing simplicity, we remove the excess that crowds our time and our thoughts, allowing us to slow down and reconnect with what really matters. For me, it's become clear that when I stop focusing on acquiring things, I create more space for what really brings me joy. The constant chase for the next big purchase fades, and I find myself drawn to simpler pleasures, like taking a quiet walk in nature, where the beauty of the trees, the sound of the wind, and the feel of the earth beneath my feet bring a deep sense of peace. Gardening has become a grounding practice, where I can watch something grow and nurture life in its purest form. Even something as simple as sitting down to read a good book brings a sense of fulfillment I never found in the act of acquiring more things. These small, simple activities bring more joy and satisfaction than any new possession ever could. There's a profound freedom in living simply. The more we remove the distractions, whether they're physical possessions or mental obligations, the more we make room for the things that genuinely fulfill us. We begin to realize that joy isn't something that comes from what we own or what we do, but from how we engage with life in its most authentic, unencumbered form. Living simply also has a ripple effect on our mental and emotional well-being. When our environment is clear and uncluttered, our minds often follow suit. We feel less stressed, less anxious, and more at peace. Without the constant pressure of keeping up with trends or maintaining a lifestyle of excess, we begin to experience life at a slower, more mindful pace. We become more attuned to the present moment and more connected to the people and experiences that truly matter. Ultimately, simplicity isn't just about removing things. It's about creating space for what truly nourishes us. It's a way of living that allows us to focus on our passions, our relationships, and our inner peace. When we let go of the things that no longer serve us, we create room for the beauty of life to unfold naturally. And that, more than anything, is where true freedom lies. One of the most profound benefits of slow living is the financial freedom it provides. In a world that often equates success with spending, it's easy to get caught in the cycle of earning just to keep up with ever-increasing desires. But as we age, we begin to realize how fleeting these material pursuits are, and how important it becomes to refocus on what truly matters. We shift our attention away from accumulating things and, instead, begin to see the value in saving for experiences that nourish our souls and support our well-being. Whether it's securing our health, spending more quality time with family, or simply ensuring we have the peace of mind that comes with a comfortable, worry-free retirement, the financial freedom gained through slow living can radically alter our quality of life. When we stop chasing the next trend or the latest gadget, something incredible happens. The constant pressure to work harder and earn more diminishes. We realize we don't need to buy every new item on the market. And in fact, we often don't need much of what we've been told we do. By consciously reducing our consumption, we begin to free up not just money, but mental space as well. The sense of relief that comes from not constantly striving for more is profound. We no longer feel tied to a system that requires us to work endlessly just to maintain a lifestyle of consumption. Instead, slow living teaches us to live with less, to prioritize spending on what truly serves us, and to let go of the constant desire to fill our lives with more stuff. With this financial freedom comes a new way of living, one where we focus on experiences over material possessions. Rather than spending money on things that lose their value over time, we find joy in creating memories. A trip to a quiet beach, an afternoon spent hiking in nature, or a cozy dinner with loved ones all become priceless investments in our well-being. These experiences enrich our lives far more than any new product could. And in doing so, we find that we are not only saving money, but also investing in the very things that make life meaningful. Slow living also shifts our mindset about peace of mind. Instead of worrying about the next financial hurdle or the stress of keeping up with rising costs, we find freedom in simplicity. We learn to appreciate the value of contentment, of knowing that we have enough, and that our worth isn't defined by what we own. The more we let go of the pressure to consume, the more we feel a sense of peace. We understand that true financial freedom isn't about having the most, it's about being content with what we have and knowing that we can live well without being enslaved to the pursuit of more. In this new way of living, we experience a deeper sense of control over our time and our finances. We are no longer driven by the need to accumulate things or by the fear of missing out on the latest trend. Instead, we become more intentional with how we spend, how we save, and what we prioritize. This shift in mindset brings a newfound sense of liberation, enabling us to enjoy life without the burden of financial stress and to focus on the things that truly matter in our later years. As we grow older, health becomes a more significant priority, and slow living offers us the perfect framework to nurture both our physical health and our mental well-being. In a world where we are often encouraged to keep pushing, achieving, and striving, the act of slowing down can feel counterintuitive. Yet, when we give ourselves permission to pause, we create space to focus on what truly matters: our bodies, our minds, and our hearts. Slow living is not about doing less, but about doing more of what nourishes us. In my own life, I've found that regular walks in nature have become a cornerstone of my health routine. Something as simple as stepping outside, breathing in the fresh air, and feeling the earth beneath my feet has a profound impact. Studies show that spending time outdoors can reduce stress, improve mental clarity, and boost overall well-being. But what's even more powerful is how these walks allow me to reconnect with myself. I'm not just moving my body, I'm grounding myself in the present moment, slowing my thoughts, and listening to the quiet rhythm of nature. Nature, in all its simplicity, reminds us of the power of stillness and the importance of taking time to breathe. It's not just about keeping our bodies healthy, though, it's also about mental well-being. As we age, life can feel overwhelming at times. We've experienced losses, changes, and transitions. And while it's easy to become consumed by what we've lost or what we don't have, slow living teaches us to focus on what we can control, how we respond to life's challenges. By prioritizing mindfulness and self-care, we begin to heal and find peace within ourselves. Meditation, journaling, or simply taking time to be still with our thoughts can provide the clarity we need to navigate life with grace. This practice of slowing down also invites us to listen to our bodies more closely. Often, we push through fatigue, ignoring the signs that we need rest. But when we embrace a slower pace, we start to understand the importance of rest, recovery, and reflection. It's about acknowledging that we are not machines, and that taking time to recharge is essential for our health and well-being. Whether it's taking a nap, reading a book, or spending time with loved ones, these moments of rest are as crucial to our health as exercise or nutrition. In fact, they may be even more so. By creating space for self-care, we begin to ensure that we live more fully and joyfully. We no longer feel pressured to constantly do, achieve, or consume. Instead, we learn to appreciate life's simpler pleasures, like a peaceful morning, a quiet conversation, or the warmth of a cup of tea. These small, everyday moments are what fill us up, nourish our souls, and sustain us through the ups and downs of life. Slow living encourages us to be present, to embrace the here and now, and to recognize that health and well-being are not just about the absence of illness, but about the fullness of our lives. In the end, slowing down isn't about abandoning our goals or ambitions. It's about prioritizing what truly matters: our health, our peace of mind, and our ability to be present with ourselves and others. It's in these moments of mindfulness, self-care, and rest that we find the strength and joy to live life to its fullest. Every single day, as we enter the later stages of life, it's natural to begin reflecting on the legacy we'll leave behind. For years, we chase success, collect possessions, and try to build a life that looks good on paper. But as time passes, we start to ask ourselves, what will people remember us for? Will they remember the material things we accumulated, the gadgets, the cars, the houses, or will they remember the values we lived by, the love we gave, and the moments we shared? Slow living invites us to take a step back and reconsider what truly matters. It encourages us to shift our focus from what we have to who we are. It's not about the things we own, but about the experiences we create and the relationships we nurture. At the end of the day, it's not the size of our home or the brand of our clothes that will matter most to the people we love. It's the time we spent with them, the way we made them feel, and the moments of peace we shared. When we live simply, we free ourselves from the distractions of consumerism and open ourselves to the deeper, more lasting connections that define a meaningful life. I often think about how I want to be remembered, especially by my children and grandchildren. I hope they will remember me not for the things I owned or the accomplishments I achieved, but for how I lived. I want them to remember that I lived mindfully, with intention, and with a deep appreciation for the small, quiet joys in life. I want them to remember the way I took time to savor a cup of tea in the morning, or how I would listen without judgment when they needed someone to talk to. These are the moments that have shaped my life and, ultimately, will be the moments that define my legacy. And as I think about the future, I hope these lessons are carried forward. I hope my children and grandchildren will discover their own paths to peace and fulfillment. carving out lives of simplicity and meaning in a world that constantly pushes us to do more, buy more, and be more. The greatest gift we can give the next generation is not a collection of things, but the wisdom to live with purpose and joy. I hope they will remember the quiet strength that comes from living simply, and that they will pass that wisdom down to those who come after them. In a world that increasingly values accumulation and achievement, slow living teaches us that what truly matters is not how much we have, but how we live. It's in the small moments of connection, the quiet reflection, and the peace we find within ourselves that our true legacy is built. This is the legacy I hope to leave behind, a life lived with mindfulness, simplicity, and an appreciation for the beauty in every moment. Choosing a path of slow living, particularly as we age, can feel like a quiet rebellion against a world that is always rushing forward. It's not always the easiest choice, but it is one that leads to a deeper, more peaceful existence, one rooted in mindfulness, connection, and true contentment. The pressures of consumerism are all around us, but when we choose to slow down and live intentionally, we reclaim our lives. We shift our focus away from the endless cycle of acquisition and toward the things that bring lasting joy. Relationships, meaningful experiences, and moments of stillness. I truly believe that by embracing slow living, we can enrich our lives in ways that go beyond the material. It's not about how much we have, it's about how deeply we experience life. And as we reflect on what truly matters, we begin to realize that we already possess everything we need within us. The beauty of this journey is in its simplicity. And the more we embrace it, the more we find peace. If this message resonated with you, I would love to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to share your journey towards slow living in the comments below. Your stories and reflections are what make this community so special. Thank you for watching and taking this journey with me. I hope this video has inspired you to take a step toward a simpler, more intentional life, one that brings you peace and fulfillment in every moment. Don't forget to subscribe for more content. And remember, the slow path is often the most rewarding one. Take it one step at a time.